Hey friends! Sorry I have been away. I've been busy. If you're a photographer, you understand. It be like that. So that's my only excuse, is that it be like that. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you, as you can probably tell by the title, how to edit, let's see, this photo in particular, but not just how I edited it, but most importantly, how I used the RGB or color curves to achieve this look. But this is the final image that I'm very happy with, and then let's see the original. Beware. Yikes, right? I know. Every time I see it, I'm appalled by the colors. It's so... I mean, actually, like, when you're looking at it out of camera, you're like, oh, okay, it's fine. But just in comparison to what it could be, it's just, yeah, so much better. So I'm going to show you how I got that. So like I said, I'm going to be focusing mainly on the color curves, and so I'm going to just like quickly breeze through all the rest of the editing that I need to do. But so far on this this image right here, the only thing I've done is some basic like skin retouching, so like some blemishes and smoothing out the skin, but I haven't done anything else to the image. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through my like highlights and shadows, do some color correcting, and do my basic tone curve and change up these greens because I hate these, because I hate the greens, but for the most part I'm just gonna go through all that, and then I'll explain the RGB curves because that's the most important part. Okay. Okay, so that's about that with all the basic like highlights and like regular tone curve, adjusting my greens and fixing the skin because her skin was kind of pink, registering as really pink, so I tried to fix that. And so now we're gonna get into the RGB curve. So I was like really afraid to use the RGB curve because I was just like, I don't know what that is. That's not for me. However, I'm so happy that I'm like using it now and I'm a bit more comfortable. I'm definitely not an expert with it because I just play around with it and see how it feels, but now that I am a bit more comfortable with it, it has improved my photography so much. You can use it for so many reasons, but one of the main reasons why I like to use it is because it gives you a very like cinematic quality with your images. It adds depth to them and it makes them a bit more dreamlike, if that makes sense. This image looks so different from the original because it has depth and there's color in everything. There's color behind it, and it adds that cinematic feel, as I said, and that really matches my style of photography. So this may not be for everyone to go as far as I do, but you can still use it for many other reasons, such as skin corrections, color corrections for the general picture. If you have weird casts over your pictures, this can help you so much. So you don't have to go as far as I do, but I like how it looks because that's my style. So moving on. So where do you find your RGB curve? This may sound stupid, but I didn't even know where it was. So when you go into your tone curve, under this little section, if you click on this little guy right here, it brings you into the RGB curve. And for a while I used this section only to quote-unquote mattify my images because that's where you can do it pretty easily. There are many ways, but one way that you can do it is going through your RGB curve. And I don't know why I like use this because I don't mattify my pictures like ever. But if you set a point in your shadows and then you pull up the base of the shadows here, it gives you that matte look. It flattens everything out, which is pretty cool. Good to know. You can go extreme. There you go. So don't do that. Oh god. Okay. So I'm gonna bring that back to normal since, like I said, I don't really mattify my pictures. Oh, I got a text message. Okay, so let me explain what your RGB curve is going to be doing. It's going to be doing the same thing as your regular tone curve is doing, but just channeling each specific color, if that makes any sense. So each each intersection points that you're seeing is going to affect a certain part of the picture. So just showing you on the grayscale right now, which is what this main curve is, if I put points at each of the intersections, and I know I missed it a little bit, but you know, whatever. So this is going to be your shadows, this point right here. This is your highlights. And then your middle one are your middle point is going to be your midtones. And then you have your in-betweenies right here. I'm so sorry I used that word. I don't know where it came from. So like I said, shadows, in between, midpoint, in between, and your highlights. And so if you keep that in mind, it can give you a general idea of what you're going to be changing, just so you're not like shooting into the wind. Is that even an expression? I don't know. Okay, so let me give you an example. So if I pull this down, it's going to pull down those shadows. If I pull it up, it's going to bring them up. And what it's doing right now is like just intensifying them, if that makes sense. And it grays them out also. So like if I redo this, it's going to intensify my highlights or gray them out. Wow, that's ugly. Okay, I'm sorry. No, please don't do that. Let me flatten this curve before I do something crazy. So yeah, that's like a general explanation of what they do. I hope that made sense. So let's actually go into each channel. So like I said, you have your RGB curve that's overall, and you have different channels. So what we're in right now is just the RGB, which means it's going to be like the complete grayscale controlling everything. Then you have your red channel, green channel, and your blue channel. And these are going to be the colors that you're adjusting for each section. So what I like to do is just go through the steps. Like this is how I do it. Like I said, there are probably official ways of how you're supposed to do it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I like my results. So then I've had people ask me questions about how I get my pictures to look the way they do. So here it is, y'all. So I'm gonna go into my red channel, and once again I'm gonna add my intersection points. And it's actually really important that you add these points. Even if you're never going to adjust your midtones, you do want to put that point there just to anchor the others. Because let's say that I didn't, I would be adjusting the whole picture without intending to do so. Because if I pull this up, it's going to pull up everything else, and that's not really what I'm going for. So let me make sure that's flat. Okay, perfect. Nope, that's not perfect, and that's gonna make me upset. So what I like to do first is I never touch my like extreme points, but I always start with my in-between point and the bottom. Very accurate term. So like I said, there really isn't like a very specific way of going about this. I like to just gradually feel out each color and then go back over them to see if I'm agreeing with what I chose. And there's never going to be a specific way to do this because each image is, you're going to want to have a different feel, I'm assuming, unless you're going with like for like a preset look, then you'd have a specific way. But for me, one shoot like this shoot, I wanted strong like greens and golds. However, a shoot that I recently edited, I wanted it to look a bit more retro, and I added more reds in. So it's going to depend on the style you're going for and also the original colors of the image. If you have an image that's very, very pink, you're most likely not going to add in more reds because bad. And you'd probably be working through your greens, if that makes sense. Okay, so moving on. So I'm starting with this point, and I'm just going to feel around and just see what all it does. So as you can see, as I'm going over the intersection line, it's adding reds into my shadows. This is actually a really cool look. And then as I go under the intersection line, now it's adding a greenish blue tint into my shadows. and each little movement changes the pictures completely, so you can spend hours doing this. I have personally just spent way too long going in circles in my tablet, but I eventually came to the conclusion that I wanted about 26 and 24. Yeah, I was about here, not exactly. Yeah, and it's so hard to be specific with these. Yeah, I'm gonna fast forward all of my like nitpickiness because there's no reason for it. So yeah, that's where I was with this one. I kept my midtones in the same area just because I didn't feel it needed it. However, don't neglect this area because it can work wonders for you. And then I went over my highlights, and now you can see how this affects it. So when I go over this line, it's going to add in reds to my highlights, or more of a pinky color in this situation. And then when I go under, it's adding in a greenish blue. This is so cool. Honestly, it's so fun to play with it. And that's how you get stuck doing this for hours. Because there's so many different looks. Like, when you're not using an RGB curve, you don't have any access to how intense these colors are. It's really interesting. Now, whenever I look at my images that I didn't use the curve on, they just look flat to me, you know? Because these have such, like, richness. I don't know, I feel like I'm just saying words now, but maybe you understand. Okay, and then for this one, I settled on something like that. Yeah. Now you're probably thinking, Destiny, that doesn't look very good. It also does not look like the final image. And that's because when you're editing one channel, it's going to look extreme. And then once you do the rest of the channels, it balances it out. Because when I was first trying this, I was like, wow, that's ugly. But then I added in the rest of the channels and it ends up balancing out. So once you do your reds, afterwards you'll do your greens, and then it'll make it look so much more even. Because complementary colors. Okay, so yeah, those are my reds, and now I'm going to do my greens. I'm going to speed through it, but I'll let you see how I went about doing this way. Add my points. Okay, and you can probably see how it balanced out the skin tone a bit more. Very helpful with skin tones, this is, because skin often tends to look too warm or orangey, or too, actually, this is a very general statement that I'm making, so I kind of disagree with myself. Depending on your skin tones, it can look too orangey or too pink or too green, possibly. Those are the main colors that I deal with skin. And using your RGB curves can fix that because you can channel exactly what you're trying to get to. And then now I'm going to do my blue curve. And you'll see the blue always surprises me for some reason. Okay, and that's it for my blues. And so you can see how this definitely changed the picture overall. It's a bit weird sometimes because you don't expect it, but that's why you just have to spend some time feeling it out and seeing what you prefer for the picture. And so what I like to do after I've gone through each one is then afterwards I'll go back and I'll check to make sure I agree with my original points, because like I said, once you do one channel, afterwards when you do the others, it will balance out the original colors. And so sometimes you have to go back and adjust it to make it look right. And so that's what I would do right now, except I'm going by specific points. I already know which ones I chose. So yeah, so that's what I would suggest to do. And just like, there's no right way to do this, like I said. So just like feel it out and do whatever your style is, whatever you're feeling. So let's check and see how similar this is to the... Oh, okay, it's like right there. Okay, and so all I did after this was my usual nitpicky editing, which was like brightening up the eyes, adding in more warmth and brightness to the glitter because I really wanted it to pop, so I did all that. And what else did I do? Maybe like saturating some more things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all I did. Yeah, and that's all I did for the rest of the editing, and it's pretty much looking like the final image. It's a little bit different because I brightened up the background a bit more, but that, you know, as I said, it'd be like that. So hopefully my explanation of the curves was helpful to you guys. Like I said, I'm not an expert in this, obviously, but it's really helpful for being able to achieve that cinematic, deep, rich looking photos that you may want. And yeah, I feel like it really adds to my style, and it helps add that dreamlike quality that I really go for. And sorry, if you guys have any more questions or any more recommendations for tutorials or requests for tutorials or other videos, please tell me. I have like a lot of videos that I'm editing right now to be uploaded, and a lot of fashion related stuff to come up, so yeah, please tell me. Thanks for watching, everybody.